Welcome, friends, to another episode of Button Board. Today, we're joined by Zara and her cats, Lily and Lace. Lily, who is partially deaf, began using buttons 16 months ago at age 7, while Lace started learning earlier this year, shortly after her adoption. Both cats took to the buttons with enthusiasm, but Lace has exceeded all expectations by mastering Lily's 70 button board. They use the buttons to make requests, narrate, communicate medical needs, and even talk to each other. Zara's degree in early childhood behavior and education made the leap to this technology an easy one. She recognizes the intrinsic curiosity all beings share. Buttons have fundamentally changed their relationship, encouraging consent, choice, cooperative care, and communication while deepening their trust and understanding of one another. Find them online at Lily and Lace Cat. Hi, Zara. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
We're okay. It's a bit hot here, but it's okay. We're in the UK and we're having a heat wave.
Wild. Who would have thought?
I know it's never hot here, but it is now.
It is now. I wonder how is that how is that for your cats? How are they dealing with the heat wave?
I'm not enjoying it very much. Obviously, we're doing all of the basic things of like the cold treats and everything else, trying to keep hydration up, but they're not enjoying it. They've got cool mats, but do you think either of them will actually lay on it?
Yeah.
Um, so they just lay around it. And
They live around it, adjacent to the cool mats. And
yes, yes.
I know there are states in the United States that just don't sort of have AC because they haven't experienced temperatures that high. But do you have AC in most places in the UK? No. Yeah.
No, most places it's not. They've started to like do it in some supermarkets and shops now, but not
Mhm.
often, and not regularly in people's homes. But now we're all wishing we did have them.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Well, I hope for a little reprieve from the heat for you in the coming days.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So do
So,
I.
yeah, I bet. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your journey. What inspired you to start using buttons, and what was your initial reaction when one of your cats pressed their first word?
Well, weirdly, and not to make this uncomfortable, but it was you actually that inspired us to start using buttons.
Oh,
A few years ago, I saw your videos with bunnies, and I tried it with my boy cat and with Lily, and neither of them got it. Like they just couldn't press the button. And I mean, this is back in the beginning, and so there wasn't a lot of information then. And so we gave up after like a week, and then my boy died a couple of years ago, and I started trying to do it with Lily because she was grieving so much, and she took to it so quickly. And here we are now. We've got 70 buttons.
that's amazing. And
Um,
oh, go ahead.
no, sorry. It just like when because Dobby did try and press the buttons too, but it was just a touch, and so it got difficult. But the first time Lily actually pressed the button, I think I was so excited that I scared her a little bit by accident, but I was like, "Oh my god, you did it!" Um, but luckily, it didn't put her off.
That's amazing. And what was that first button pressed? What word was it?
Her first press, because I was leading her into the buttons, was actually a treat button. But the first independent press she ever did was play, and
Oh,
that shocked both of my cats because they're the first word that they wanted to use over and over wasn't treat, it wasn't snack, it was play. And that was my favorites.
that's so interesting. We're finding that again and again in the community that everyone's like, well, I don't want to add a treat button because my learner is super food motivated. All they're going to do is press treat. And then when we give them a variety of options that are motivating to them, we find that their motivations are a little bit different than what we thought. And of course, our learners can become satiated. So maybe they've had enough treats, and what other activities that they want to do, and how can we help them to achieve those goals?
Yes, definitely. I think what I found most interesting with that was the fact that she wasn't spamming me with treat all of the time. Like it wasn't that she'd filled herself up on treats. It was just she would walk up to her three buttons and instantly just go for play. She wanted to play all day, every day. And I thought I was playing with her more than enough, but apparently not. She wanted a lot more play than I was giving her.
Sounds like my cat, Tenrec. I don't know if you've seen Bunny calls 10 Rec a cat. He is so play motivated. Loves snacks too, but if he could do one thing all day for eternity, it would be play.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like both of mine. Lily's settling down a bit with the play now. I think she's going to be 9 soon, and I don't know, she's a bit calmer than she was a couple of years ago. Whereas Lace, if she had her way, she would play all of the time.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. So, how long did it take from the time you introduced buttons until you got a first independent press?
um, well, this is where I find it so fascinating because they're so different and yet like in the way that they've learned and everything else. But Lily, it took Lily maybe a week or so to press the button with me leading it, but then about a month before she pressed independently because she was very excited and motivated to use them. And I thought that was fantastic. And then I got Lace and just she was pressing the buttons within the first couple of weeks. Like she was so motivated to do it. The first session, she started touching the buttons. Like she was incredibly motivated. Um, so yeah, neither of them took as long as I thought they would. But I don't know if Lily did it quicker because of the previous time I tried to teach her.
Yeah.
But like she wanted everything. So
That's amazing. And do you think Lace learned uh, primarily from your sort of sessions with her or from observation of Lily's use of the buttons?
I think a lot of it was a combination of because we did it every day, but she saw Lily using them constantly. And I know that with like older children and things, if they've got, well, with younger children, if they've got an older sibling, then they tend to pick up language a lot quicker. And it kind of feels similar to that because Lace just picked it up so fast. I never expected her to be at the level that she's at this quickly. And I do think it's primarily down to Lily rather than me.
That's very, very cool. How much of your own education in early childhood behavior and education do you think has influenced how you teach words to your cats?
I think quite a lot of it, but I think it's it's similar to when you have children. Like obviously you're modeling words constantly, and even from a very young age, like a year old, they're starting to recognize routines and things like that. And cats and dogs are very similar in that same respect that they learn the routine. And so it's so easy to model the words because they know that that routine means this. And so it's just adding a word the same as you would with a child. I don't feel that there's much difference at all. And some people get really offended by that. But I feel like training a dog and cat is the same as bringing up children in a way, as teaching children. It's very, very similar.
Excuse me. I think there's a ton of overlap, and yeah, people get pretty angry about that. But if you hold up an apple enough times and say the word apple for a child, they're going to build the association. And then I think it's not dissimilar from how our animal companions are learning. You hold up a mouse toy, for example, enough times, and you say mouse toy, and of course here I'm bringing in the cat realm, Flounder's mouse toy, right? They're going to build that association. Words are just arbitrary sounds that we've attached meaning to. So I imagine that having that background has actually simplified things for you because it clarifies sort of how those connections and associations are built and doesn't add in all of this sort of cultural influence like, well, no, dogs and cats don't know words, we're humans. It's a sort of anthropocentric lens that it seems you've been lucky to avoid.
Yes. Yeah. It just, I don't know. It seemed fairly, I say that, but I was still very skeptical about doing it. It wasn't that I went in straight away and was like, this is 100% real and it's true and it's going to happen. I came in going, hey, maybe. Um, and here we are. But I apologize. I've just forgot what I was saying.
No
Um,
worries.
but like, I don't feel that it's, sorry, pause. I forgot
No
what I was
worries.
saying. I'm
I have to cough, so it's perfect timing.
exactly absolutely fine. I'm
Oh,
so sorry. That's good because I can have a drink. Yeah.
great idea.
I do apologize. Sorry, I have a processing delay. And so it's not that I don't know the things, it's just that my brain sometimes forgets to organize my thoughts.
You are
And
totally
so I
fine.
was distracted easily.
I would say that like 95% of the fluent pet community is neurodivergent. So we are all here very comfortable with neurodivergence and any sort of processing differences that you may experience. So no need to
We've
apologize.
had this conversation a lot of times because when I got my official diagnosis, I told everyone that they were all like, welcome to the club. And
Yeah.
apparently there's only a couple in the group that are not. And I'm like, are you
Yeah.
sure though? The teacher
Yeah. Right, 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 right,
honestly.
right. Yeah, totally. Like, so we were talking about what were we talking about? We were talking about oh, it doesn't matter. We can move
Sorry.
on. No, 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 don't be. Oh, we were talking about skepticism. I'd love to hear more about that and if so, how that influenced the first buttons that you gave to your cats.
Well, when I first began, obviously, I just gave the concrete ones because, again, that's what you do with children too. They have the milk, they have like biscuit. You give them concrete things. You don't start with difficult concepts. And so we just started with play and snack and scratches. Sorry, brush. We changed it. And so they were very concrete things that we could keep doing repeatedly. And to be honest, I wasn't skeptical about that. I did know that they would be able to do a concrete concept, like that would be fine, that they would know that a snack is a snack. It was moving on that I thought, well, maybe not. Um, and then it did happen. Well, Lily to start with, she started using the buttons in ways that I wasn't expecting. Like, she had a birdie, which is a terrible word, but birdie for a toy. And she herself managed, like, twisted the word and started to use it for the birds outside the window because we have a bird feeder out the window. And she kept asking me for birdie. And I was like, "But we've been playing with the birdie. Like, what do you want?" And no. And then she'd just sit and stare out the window. And then I looked one day and I saw that the bird feeder was swinging because the birds had been on it. And she was telling me that the birds had been there. And that was the first point that it felt like an actual conversation rather than just her telling me what she wants and me pandering to her. And
Yeah.
it was crazy. It felt absolutely insane. I felt insane because my cat is telling me that there are birds outside, and now she's asking me to get the birds for her. And I don't know how to tell her that I'm not in control of these birds. And it was insane. It was great, but very, very strange. But I think even now, sometimes I do think to myself, like, is this just a random press? Like, is this? But the thing is, in all of my videos, sometimes they're far too long, just for the simple fact that I will fast forward between pauses because Lily pauses a lot more between her words, but she likes to do single words rather than multiple presses. Whereas Lace will do whole presses with just a few seconds in between. And if I fit all of those presses in one video, I have to fast forward the in between parts. But I don't want to cut and swap or anything else. It has to be this one clip that I've put in. It's just we've had to fast forward through the bits where she's just sat thinking. And I think when you've got to that point, you can't think that it's not real or be skeptical about it because you can see it in real time happening in front of you. And again, it makes me feel insane. It does because this is actually happening. And 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I never would have imagined this, like not even a little bit.
That's amazing. I know that feeling of like this cannot possibly be real and like holding that skepticism for as long as possible until it's undeniable that something greater than we thought was possible is happening. So at that point when it was Lily that was talking about the birds outside. When Lily started talking about the birds outside, it sounds like something switched for you a little bit. Did that influence what words you decided to add afterwards after that?
Yes, after that, I felt like that we could start trying to first off verbally model them. But then to add buttons that weren't so concrete, that weren't just specific snacks or specific toys, and like so night and day and things like that, because we could add more difficult concepts because she did understand them. And so it really did broaden all of our buttons, like how we use them and how what buttons we have. Um, because I remember for the first few months, it did feel like I was just being her slave. Like it was just constant asking for this and asking for this and asking for this. And it didn't feel like communication. It did just feel like she was just telling me what to do. Um, and then after that, it's moved into actual conversation now. But I think you can't get to that point without doing the first part where it does feel like you're just pandering to them a lot. But you can't get there
Yeah.
without it.
Yeah, I think in order to build the understanding that this is a tool for our learners to control outcomes, we have to let them control outcomes for a little while, right? We have to show them that they do have agency and power and that this is their tool, and that the more they use it, the more we will respond. And the more we respond, the more interested and engaged they become. I think it's this really sort of neat reciprocal process. It sounds like that's what you
Oh,
experienced.
oh yes, definitely. And honestly, it's one of the things that I've said to my friends so many times now because I could never take the words away now. It would feel so incredibly cruel for them to not have them because they use them so much. Like every single day without fail. We haven't had a single day where we haven't had at least 20 presses. Like
Wow.
they talk to me all the time. It would be really cruel to take that away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you saying at the beginning that initially Lily would sort of tap the buttons but not actually press down on them? How did you
Yeah.
overcome that hub? Because I know that's a familiar challenge within the cat community.
Well, back then, I didn't know that there was a method called the step up method. I've seen it since then, but originally what we did was I just got a little box and put the button on top and used one of the licky treats and just lured her up on top. And she got it quite quickly. And so she would stand on the button, but we just repeated that. And then what I should have done is reduce the steps slowly. I did not do that. And so it still worked. Like for the first few weeks, we had them on a smaller box about this high. But then I just put them on the floor, and she went from there. But it worked so so quickly, a lot quicker than I thought it would. I think she just needed to feel the motion of actually how to press it. Because she was absolutely fine tapping it. She could tap it all day, every day, but it was just putting her weight on the floor. But yeah, she picked it up quickly after. But I know that, can I mention names?
Of course.
I know that Twiggy and her cat friends, like she's got so much information. And since then, I've seen the step up method used in a much cleaner way than I managed. But and that worked really well. And so now I tell everybody, anybody that asks, to go there and look at them because they are fantastic. It's a fantastic way of doing it. And we would not have got here without it.
Amazing. Yeah, Twiggy, well, Janine hosts mentorship calls for us too. So if people want more information about that, they can join the Flown Pet community. There's a ton of resources there. And of course, following all the other cats in your area who are using buttons, also such a wealth of information.
Yes, definitely.
And then did Lace have a similar challenge? Or it sounds like Lace right away was like, no, I know how this works. I've got this. I have things to say.
Yes, legs are just absolutely bulldozed through the entire thing. So we struggled a little bit with her actually pressing it because she was instantly tapping it, no problem. But again, she started pressing it very quickly. In that with lace, we just did modeling, rapid modeling. So again, it was the press the button, give a treat, press the button, give a treat, and same as play. And again, she just nailed it. I think it depends, obviously, it depends on your learner. It depends on how they are. Lily is very reserved and a bit politer. And so she needed the help to stand on it. Whereas Lace
Mhm.
is like a bull in a china shop and she will climb you to get what she wants. So she had no problem trying to stand on that.
That's amazing. So you already, when Lace came home, you already had 70 buttons down.
Yes.
So when you were trying to teach her, obviously she was watching you model all of the words, and then you were rapid modeling like the treat and the play within those 70 buttons. Yeah, did
No,
she?
we actually had them as a separate. I started off as a separate little board with just three panels, with three buttons
Oh,
that lace. But then I moved them onto the edge of Lily's board because obviously it takes up a lot of space because it's 70 buttons, and we
yeah,
have some empty tiles because my cats love to lay on them. So I just put them at the edge of the button board, and she started trying to. Well, originally I used one of Lily's buttons, brought it out of the button board and got her to use that. And then that was it. It was like the gateway to it. And she just went for it. And she spent a good couple of weeks just trying to press every single button. But the thing was, she did them all in context. And it absolutely blew my mind because I was like, she doesn't know this. She cannot know this. But she'd been watching Lily do it the entire time. She'd been watching me do it because I mostly pressed back to Lily as well because of her hearing. Um, and so she'd seen it so often. And I've got older videos where I'm genuinely like, she didn't really mean that because Lace is there pressing accidentally in the background, but she's not used them in the right context at all. And that's
that's
insane.
incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. Two questions. I got a cough again. Sorry, I'm so congested today.
Absolutely
Um,
right.
do you do you remember a specific example of when Lace used buttons that you hadn't specifically modeled, and she used them in a contextually appropriate way, and you were just like, "What is happening? This is so crazy."
Her first ever real sentence, and to be fair, is the only sentence she's done fully like the biggest sentence, and it was one friend outside, friend stranger, something along those lines. And the thing is, we have a neighbor's cat that they like to stare at each other through the door, and so a lot of the time I'm telling her like, Tissel is no stranger, Tissel is friend, he's no stranger, because she'll come up and call him a stranger. Um and so I was like, You don't want Tissel." And you can see her meow at me because she's not very good at hand choices, but she will meow when you say the right word. And so then I'm like,
Oh,
Tissel, Tissel. And she's meowing each time because she's just asked me to go outside to see Tissel. And I genuinely, I was like, I might be losing my mind. I might actually just be crazy right now because what is happening? My cat is asking to go for a play date with my neighbor's cat. And this is crazy. But it was completely in context. And the thing was, I went down and I opened the door and she came and she waited for him because he wasn't there.
oh,
And she sat and she waited for such a long time because that is what she wanted. It wasn't like, she didn't just press it and then forget about it. No, she pressed it and then she went to get the response that she'd asked for, if that makes sense.
totally. Yeah, I mean, button presses are truly meaningless without, the corresponding context, right? Like our skepticism would not move an inch if there wasn't all of this surrounding data, like bunny presses want outside friend, then walks to the door and then looks for another animal outside, or
Yes.
presses come look, and then looks at me and then looks over there, and then I follow her and she makes sure that I'm looking, and then she looks outside and there's like an animal out there, like all of that context is so important. So, you know, maybe you've heard this, maybe you're lucky enough not to have, but a criticism I get all the time is that dogs and cats using buttons, their guardians don't pay attention to body language at all. It's an excuse to not pay attention to body language. And, that is so far from the truth. First of all, we wouldn't be, without observing our animal companions very closely, observing what they want, what they're smelling, what they're looking at, who they are, we wouldn't be able to choose words for them that are meaningful enough that they would be motivated to use them. And then in order to interpret the sometimes complex and confusing series of presses that we get from a very limited vocabulary, we have to be taking in all of this other data about what just happened, what normally happens at this time of the day, what are they looking for? Do they seem in distress? Are they relaxed? So we're constantly analyzing all of these different features to paint a larger picture. So yeah, hopefully you haven't received that criticism, but it is a common one in the community.
I haven't received it personally, but I've seen it absolutely everywhere. And honestly, it drives me insane because you are right. You use their context and their body language and everything that they are doing to interpret those buttons in the first place. I actually we don't have a button for juice because we don't need it. We use chicken broth. But when Lily wants that, she'll just sit in the window and she'll just sit there quietly and wait. She'll sometimes fall asleep there because I haven't noticed. She could easily ask me for buttons or anything else, but she doesn't want to. And so we don't even have a button for it because she uses her body language to tell me. And I know that everybody in the community says it, but it is something to use alongside buttons, like, well, using buttons alongside their body language, not as a replacement, and that frustrates me so much.
Yeah, it's an additional tool for them, which adds specificity, right? They can tell us exactly what they want when they want it. They can tell us exactly where they're in pain instead of us having to guess. And it's a tool for us to better understand them because we can be quite bad at interpreting body language. So, the more tools we all have in our tool belt, the happier everyone's going to be for our cats, dogs, or other species to be able to request the specific type of enrichment they want in the moment. Then we've got a more satisfied learner, which leads to a better relationship, deeper connection, fewer problematic behaviors, et cetera. I mean, it's a win-win. Why not add as many methods as possible for gaining the full picture about what's going on?
Yes, fully. And we originally started buttons. I started them with Lily because where she grieved so much after my boy died, and that so she was getting sick. She'd get
Mm.
UTIs, and she would just walk around crying. Now I didn't realize at the time, but because of how deaf she is, she's not fully deaf, but she is partially deaf. But so he would help her a lot. So they'd follow each other and everything else. And so after he died, she was doing this piercing meow, calling for him, but obviously he's not here. Um, and so we originally started buttons to try and figure out like a way to obviously calm her down, but also to help her grieve and to help me understand her because I couldn't understand her. All I knew is that she was grieving. Um, and the difference it's made is incredible. She doesn't scream at me anymore, which again, it sounds like it was for just a problematic behavior. It wasn't, obviously. She was hurting and I was trying to help, but she doesn't scream at me anymore because she has a different way to communicate that isn't upsetting to her.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, Do you mentioned her being partially deaf, and I'm wondering, do you make any or have you had to make any accommodations for her in regards to the button board or how you use buttons because of that?
Um, I think it's a lot more modeling, and I think
Mm.
that's one of the things that surprised me so much between Lily and Lace, because I had to model so much more for Lily than I have to for Lace. Lace picks everything up so quickly, and Lily picked it up very quickly as well. She's not silly, but it was a slower process. And so I didn't really expect that, but so I had to model a lot more, like, she has to be aware of the fact that I'm actually modeling. Um,
Mhm.
she can only hear certain tones, and so she doesn't
Mm.
really hear the buttons very well, and she doesn't hear my voice very well unless I raise my voice, not shouting at her, but I have to raise my voice. Um, and so, yeah, I think it was just a lot more modeling than most people have to do. Um, but it worked.
Yeah, that's awesome. There are, do you know positive behaviors, Morgan? Um, she runs some of our boot camps and does a lot of our educational calls. And she's taught several blind and deaf cats how to use buttons. And so I'm always interested to hear the different accommodations that people make to facilitate learning in those cases, whether it's a sort of system of braille or like a scent based system. There are so many people experimenting with really sort of remarkable and innovative ways to work with disabled learners. So I love that.
I
Um,
think it's sorry.
so no, 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 no. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said I think it's fantastic. I've seen other people like you scent based versions, and so yeah, I wish we'd have known about that when I first started, because I think that would have made a difference. Luckily now, obviously, we're a lot further in the journey, and so she's doing absolutely brilliantly. But I think it would have made the first few months maybe a bit easier.
Yeah, yeah, perhaps. Yeah, there are options out there for anyone watching this who has some confounds like that or some challenges. There are resources available. I'm wondering how Lace and Lily's individual personalities show up in buttons. How does what they press really reflect who they are as individuals?
Well, I think I find this part really interesting because Lily is very reserved and she's not a very like affectionate cat, as in she doesn't want a human being around her a lot, but she wants you to be at the board with her. And so you she likes you to be there, but also she doesn't press a whole lot of buttons. She doesn't do a whole sequence. She'll usually press one button and then you have to figure it out based off her body language and the context that she's giving you rather than elaborating. Whereas Lace, who is this absolute ball of chaos that is just wild, presses as many buttons as she can. And again, not in a, just spamming everything way, but if she could use three words to describe one thing, then she will. She's a lot more talkative. And I think that is very much their personality. That Lily is a bit more reserved and a little bit more quiet, whereas Lace is just hi.
That's amazing. I mean, I think that's so fascinating. Um, how much difference there is between, I mean, I think some people are like, okay, there's cats and there's dogs, and dogs are kind of doggy and cats are kind of catty, right? And then we get into all of these households with these individual learners. We've got like the existentialists, we've got the foodies, we've got the dogs and cats who really want to play. We've got the dogs and cats who really want to engage with like other people and animals, and they've all got these complex, rich inner lives that I think many of us in the community knew existed, right? We all know that cats and dogs are sentient, but it's sort of next level, giving us this understanding of the rich inner complexity of their cognitive and emotional lives.
Oh, yes, definitely. It's I think it's always such a shock because you know that they've got their own personalities and everything else, but when they're actually using your own words to explain that, it comes as a shock. You've taught them this. You are learning to do this with them, and yet it still comes as a shock every time they do something like that because I don't know, maybe I just haven't accepted fully that this is happening and I should have accepted it. I have accepted it. But every time they do something that I think is just amazing, it shocks me every time because why I didn't expect you to do that.
Well, they're not supposed to be able to do this, right? So anytime they
Exactly.
do, they're like, wait, wait, wait. You know, my socialization says, no, not my socialization. What's the word I'm looking for? My my whatever. I don't know what the word is. They're not supposed to be they're not supposed to be able to do this. We've been told that they can't. And then here they are, thousands of them in front of us doing it. So we have to sort of rewrite that script in our minds. Yeah. So um, let's move on to pain because I know you have a cat right now that has been moving through some pain, recently had surgery. I would love to know a little bit about that part of your journey. Was there pain and then you added an ouch and medicine button? Were the ouch and medicine there before? Can you just give us a little bit of the backstory on that?
Well, when I first got laced, she had a whole host of issues that we didn't know about until I'd taken her to the vets about a different sickness issue. And so we began physio then, which again, the buttons really helped because we straight away introduced a button for exercise so she could remind me to do physio. So we did that every day, twice a day, and it was going really well. And honestly, we did think that she was doing better and that didn't need surgery and was going to be okay. And now the entire time I've had her, I take medicine myself and Lily takes medicine. And so it's been a constant modeled word anyway, because I'll take my medicine and I explain, Mama medicine now, please, Lily medicine now, please. It's just something we've always done. And then Lace pressed medicine one day, and the first time she did it, I thought it was a fluke, and I was like, I don't know. But at the same time, the context, she'd just fallen up the stairs, and I was like, maybe, but also you've never had medicine, so I didn't believe her, and that's on me. Um, and then the next time she did it was about a week or so after, and she just pressed medicine. She'd been playing with Lily, and they were running around a lot. And then she kind of hobbled over and pressed medicine,
Oh.
and it's like she means that. But at the time, I was in the kitchen, so I was taking my medicine, and I was like, "Oh, she's just narrating. It's fine." But then I looked at her and I got her to walk, and you could see her legs. They were really circumdenting and they were just so stiff and painful. Um, and so I called the vets, and I'm pretty sure the vets think I'm absolutely insane. But I came in with video evidence, like my cat asked for medicine, but look at her legs. And yeah, obviously since then she asked for medicine, she asked for help, she tells me when she's in pain. Um, Also, she's had to have surgery because her knees, the bones in her knees are deformed, and so her patellas have been
Mm.
luxated. Um, but I really do think that, I hope I would have noticed if she hadn't have asked for medicine because she was stiff. But at the same time, you can't really notice it from above. You have to be down on her level and see her walking to actually really see it. And so I do hope that I would have noticed, but honestly, I can't say for sure that I would have if she hadn't have asked for medicine in the first place, if she hadn't have told me she was in pain. And so I will always be grateful for the buttons because I don't know that I would have known if she didn't, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's what we were talking about earlier, I think, is that eventually you would have. You would have been like, oh, maybe she's a little bit stiff. You would have been in the right position at the right time to see her walking and you would have noticed something. But the combination of hearing medicine or ouch or pain or whatever, and then being able to observe her physical body language at the same time paints a much clearer, fuller picture that may have taken you a lot longer to get to without the buttons.
Every time she has pressed medicine, I would go and record her legs straight away after. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I give her the medicine first because obviously I want her to know that this is medicine. And plus, at this point, I believe her. Like,
Yeah.
I've done it so many times that I've recorded her when she hasn't asked for medicine and she was walking better. Um, and then to the point that she asked for medicine, I recorded her legs, and you can see her walking so stiffly. We had a really crazy moment during the beginning of this, where Lily asked for medicine, and honestly, again, I thought it might have been an accident or something because she didn't she doesn't have medicine at that time of the day or anything else. And so I'd asked her, I was like, "What, does Lily want medicine?" And we did hand choices, and she said no. I was like, "Oh, does Lex want medicine?" And she said yes. And it was my absolute I've gone insane. This is absolutely crazy. But she fully asked for medicine for Lace, and she's done that twice now. And they've both been on days where they were, Lace had been on her heated bed all day, and I'd been umming and ahhing about whether I should be giving her medicine or not because she doesn't seem right, but at the same time, she's not overtly in pain. Um, and then Lily has asked for medicine for Lace. Now, Lily doesn't press the medicine button unless it's for Lace now, apparently, which is very, very strange. But here we are.
I love that. That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I've always been curious about learners communicating with the buttons with each other because naturally they have a language, style of communication that they already use to communicate. So my sense is that when learners use the button in each other's presence, they're talking about each other to us as opposed to each other. But I've seen other examples of learners reporting something about another learner, and that is so powerful. It's so
See, On
beautiful.
that on that same note, though, I don't know if it's because Lily is partially deaf that Lace has used the buttons to talk to Lily. and she's fully not talking to me. She said hi to her. She's asked her to play. Like she said, love you, like all of these things. Whereas, and she's staring directly at Lace, like not even looking at me, doesn't care where I am. Like she is just talking to Lily about it. And she uses the buttons to do it. And I don't know if that is because of Lily being partially deaf. But Lily has also told Lace a few times, like, oh, done and rest, like, and basically told her just knock it off. And so, again, I find that fascinating because they do use the buttons to talk to each other, not in full conversations, not in full sentences, but they do use them fairly often with each other and not at all to me.
That's so interesting to me. I wonder if that is because it's such a valuable tool that holds enough value that they will use it within their own dynamic, or if it's like a sort of gamification of language. Like maybe they're able to express concepts that they can't communicate in other ways amongst one another. It just raises so many interesting questions for me.
I love it. I think it's the most adorable thing in the world. Um,
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. I think that it could be just because Lily doesn't hear so well. So, like, if she's sleeping or anything else, it's much easier for Lace to use the buttons to try and wake her up, rather than because she's not the type to jump on each other. They don't jump on each
Mm.
other. So she can't wake her up that way. um, but it's wonderful. It's really cute to see.
Yeah, I love that. You'd mentioned that you think your veterinarians think you're crazy. I think it's brilliant that you, as soon as she presses the medicine or the ouch, is it ouch or pain button? It doesn't really matter. Um,
Ouch.
ouch. That you document. So you've got video evidence. But I wonder, what are the things that they say? How do they respond when you bring in this evidence and you tell them about your cat self reporting that they want medicine or that they're in pain?
Honestly, it's been a bit hit and miss. And not to be sexist in any way, shape, or form, but it has seemed to be the male vets that have kind of brushed me off and just gone and changed the subject, whereas the women have been interested. And
Mm.
so then I'm sorry, I keep dropping your name everywhere, you and Elsie. And I'm like, you need to look at these videos. Like, if you're interested in this, these are the ones you need to see. And so the women have been a lot more receptive to it. They've been interested, whereas the couple of male vets we've seen haven't really. I don't know. They haven't taken me seriously with it at all. They've just changed the subject and been like, yeah. Whereas the women vets have been. No, we've got a couple of people following us on Instagram, which is really weird. But so they seem more interested, I think. Even with the evidence of having videos of, Lace walking and pressing the buttons and things like that, I think are still skeptical, which is fair
Mhm.
if you haven't experienced it and you haven't seen anything about it. I think it's understandable to be skeptical about it, but that's why more people need to see it.
Yeah, I think one of the quickest ways to dispel skepticism is to do this with your own cat or dog, right? Because I think all of us in the community, with very few exceptions, started with a high level of skepticism and have held that throughout the process and still hold that to some degree. Like, does Bunny understand what dream means? Like, I don't know. I don't know. She presses the button a lot. She says interesting things, but I can't know what's going on in her brain. But I also can't deny that something really, really interesting is happening and that I've received from her a lot of incredibly accurate information about what's going on in the world around me, about how she's feeling, about what she wants to do, about how she felt about what happened yesterday. That's what I always tell people. If you have a dog or a cat and you are a skeptic, just try it. I'll send you some buttons, just try it and see.
I have been trying to get everybody I know to use them because I want other people to do this too. And everyone's like, oh no, it frustrates me to no end. But everyone goes, yeah, but they'll just spam me for snack all the time. They'll just want food. But they won't. You would be so surprised by what their favorite word will end up being because I thought mine would be some kind of food. Now at the moment, Lily's is lolly because she's obsessed with these lolly snacks. But usually it's some other kind of thing. Like Lace loves to talk about outside, or Lily loves to talk about the birds, and they love to play and they love brush. Like it's not all food based, and that comes with such a shock. But most people, they assume that that is what it will be, and that is all it will be. And yes, it would only be that if that is all you teach them. But you have the opportunity to teach them more than that. And
Yeah.
how could you not?
Yeah, you bring up so many good points. Like if all you have is a treat button, that's all you're gonna press. And it's probably gonna mean 100 other things, but that's just I only have one word. I'm gonna yell at you regardless because it immediately gets your attention, right? So if they're spamming the treat button, add some more buttons. They've probably got more to say. Um, oh, I had another interesting point I wanted to bring up about that. And I forget it. But that's okay. I'll circle back. I'll remember it at some point. Uh, Going back to the vet conversation, Mary Robinette and Elsie have a little travel board that they bring to the vet. Have you considered doing something like that?
I haven't. Well, I've started to think about it now, but I wasn't sure at the time because obviously, Lady Society been doing this for maybe 6 months, and during that time she's been stayed and she's had been sick a lot for a lot of different things, and so I I didn't want to put too much on her plate all at once, and then obviously now it would be ideal to have them now, but we haven't done it yet. Um, and I think I was hoping that we wouldn't need to be going to the vets so often that we would need to take buttons with us. But now I think it could be beneficial. We've been trying to work out like what buttons I should be putting in her crate with her so that she has some way to communicate with me. How do I narrow it down? Because she has a lot of words that she uses often, and I don't know how to narrow that down enough to put in a small crate.
Yeah, that's a tricky problem. I mean, I think what I would try and focus on are the buttons that directly relate to agency and levels of comfort, which I'm sure you've already thought about, like in, out, uh, potty, medicine, ouch, help, come, and then like something comforting, or I don't know. It's so specific to your relationship and her needs, but it is a challenge to narrow down 70 words, to the
Because
five
again,
or
it's
six that
then
will fit in the crate.
yeah, and then it's taking away all of her other words. I was so afraid that, she'd spend so much time in this crate that she wouldn't be able to talk anymore, that she would forget how to use her words and how to use her buttons. And then she shocked me by coming out, and every time she comes out, she goes straight to her buttons. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know why I didn't really expect that. I was very worried that she would forget all of this learning that we've done, and she hasn't, not even a little bit.
Isn't that interesting? I feel like that is some sort of programmed bias that we have. Because of course, a child that has like learned how to express its needs isn't going to forget how to express its needs, right? Because it's
Yeah.
so intrinsically motivating to have agency. So to think that
Yeah.
our dogs or cats would forget, like they have all of this ability now to control outcomes, to select activities, enrichment, food, and to think that a few days away from it, and they would be like, well, nah, what? I don't remember. I don't remember how to advocate for myself. It's interesting.
That is,
I think that speaks to the sort of culture we have around cohabitating with dogs and cats. But I mean, I've felt the same way. I was like, what if I don't model for a month? Is Bunny going to forget how to use the buttons? And she might forget like the location of a couple of them and make a couple of missteps or whatever. But no, this is a tool that has
yeah.
created agency for her, and agency increases distress tolerance. And she's a very sensitive and anxious dog. So this is a very important tool for her.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't thought of it that way either, but it makes complete sense because, of course, she's not going to forget. But I think that you're right. It is, I don't know, like that is just kind of what you think because that's how you kind of think about animals that you have to keep up with their training, otherwise they will forget how to do it. And actually, no, it's not like that. It's not teaching a trick. It's
Exactly.
communication.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. I mean, we have gone over so many topics today, and I have a few more questions here that maybe would be interesting to cover. Um, oh, here's a question. Have either Lily or Lace, and I suspect the answer might be that Lace has done this, uh, repeatedly pressed a combination of buttons. And at first you were like, I don't know what this means. And then you figured out it was a thing that you then had to add a word for, sort of a more complex concept?
Um, well, well, because now my brain has just gone, they've never done a single thing in the entire of their lives. Um, and we've been trying to work out recently what water is meaning to them,
Hmm.
because water is just supposed to mean water. It was a very concrete concept, like it is water. We put the tap on, and yet Lace has pressed a huge combination, but then ended it with water. And of course, I've gone, oh, do you want water? I can get you water. And she's been so disappointed in me because that's not what she's asked for. But to be honest, I still don't know what it is she's asked for. The thing that makes it so interesting is the fact that then Lily, a few minutes later, walks over and says, Lace, water, because she is advocating for Lace, but I still don't know what water means to them because I don't know if
Interesting.
it's because Lace had been having accidents or because I've had to wipe her butt like with wet wipes, and so that's water too. I'm not sure what they mean by it, but it doesn't mean what I had meant it to mean. So as soon as we figure that out, they will get a button for that too because they are asking for one. I'm not sure what at the moment. I
That's
find
so
it
fun.
interesting because it is that both of them sort of asked, and obviously they talk to each other, right?
Yeah. Situations like that are so confounding and can feel so frustrating in the moment, but it's such a fun puzzle. And I feel like you have the opportunity to like work with them to sort of sort it out. Like next time one of them presses water, you'll be like, okay, here's a bowl of water. Here's a wet wipe. It's raining outside. Here's some juice, or here's some wet food, or all of the things that could potentially be water. Here's something that's like slippery, or I don't know. It's an opportunity to really explore and expand and enrich too, because so many of those items, um, I feel like would be, I don't know, they'd be enriching. That was not an interesting thing to say. Maybe we'll cut that part out. Anyways, you get where I'm going with this.
Of course.
Yeah.
um, well, I think a lot of our words, because we tried to do it a little bit more like Mary Robinette has done with Elsie of using umbrella terms. And so we introduced water that was just supposed to mean water, but water could be rain outside, which Lily has told me before. Like, again, very shocking because she'd be pressing water. And I'm like, "The- she never wants water. Lily asks for water for Lace, but she never wants water. She does not like water. Um, and then I've been like, "Do you really want water?" And then seconds later, the heavens have just opened. And I'm like, you just told me it was about to rain, and that is insane. And so we use that for water for the taps and for the shower and water tidy and all these things. But obviously now they've used it for another meaning that I don't understand at the moment. At the moment, because I will understand eventually because they will tell me, but we just need to get to that point.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome. That's exciting. I love when things like that happen. I'm wondering if Lily and Lace could say anything right now, what would it be?
Lace would fully just be like, "Let me out of this crate. I don't want to live in here."
Aw.
um, and Lily, I don't know. I don't think I don't think she needs anything else to say right now. I think she's happy with what we have, and so she can say the things that she would like to say, if that makes sense. I don't think there's anything right now that she can't say. Um, which is why we haven't added any buttons recently because right now she's happy with what she has, and so we haven't really felt the need to add any more at the moment because, well, we might have to once we figure out what water means, but right now with what we have. And so I don't think there is anything she'd want to say. I think she's able to say everything she wants to say at the moment.
Awesome. All right, one final question for you. Uh, do you have a controversial opinion about buttons or cats that you would be willing to share with us?
I'm not sure if it's controversial or if it is just, I don't know, belief that people tend to have. But I did say before, but everybody doing buttons, everybody is so intelligent and so clever, and it is intimidating because, you've got people with science backgrounds and, animal trainers and everything else. And so it does seem really intimidating that, you have to be very clever and you have to be this sensational person to be able to do this. And I'm living proof that you really don't have to be like all you need is to have the patience to try, and find the motivating words. Like your pets will do it. And so again, I don't think it's controversial, but I do think it is a misconception that a lot of people have because no offense, but none of us are like the most special, amazing people in the world to be able to do this. Anybody could do this if they give it the chance and if they try. If that, I think that makes sense. I think it's
No, it makes complete sense. I love that. And I think one counter argument, I think there is something special about a human whose inclination is to presume competence about a non human. I think that takes someone special because most people don't. A lot of people don't. A lot of people wouldn't give their animal companions the opportunity. Uh, a lot of times when you hear the pushback that I can't give my dog or cat buttons because they'll just tell me what to do all day, it's because if they were to do what their dog or cat told them to do, they'd have to completely reframe how they think about what it means to live with a non human, right? So I think our capacity within this community to presume competence and to offer this grace to our animal companions to try and balance the scales, I think that is spectacular. I think we are spectacular in that regard.
I think that's a very nice point. I will add though that I've had to add please on the end of a few of our words because I have some type of demand avoidance.
Yeah.
And my cat's telling me now, now, now was too much. And so we have now please and we have more please, because that is significantly better than being demanded to do something. And I have no problem with them when they're being polite. So now, please, of course, my darling, you can have whatever you like. It works a lot better.
I love that. I deeply relate to that. Deeply. The demand avoidance is real, whether it's coming from a dog, a cat, or a person. Yeah.
Yes, completely. I've seen some that are like the button move, and I'm like, I could never. I could not because my brain would automatically become offended to that. And I don't ever want to be offended by anything they tell me. I will
Yeah.
literally do whatever they want me to do.
If they say
It's like
please.
in a polite way.
That's hilarious. I love it. Well, this has been such a fun, elucidating, lovely conversation. I'm so pleased that you took the time to chat with me. And it's been really lovely getting to know you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And it's been really nice to talk to you. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Subscribe.